Hello, divine wild community, and welcome to this episode of the podcast where I am joined by my friend, my teacher, my mentor, an icon to Cornwall. Honestly, it feels like a little bit starstruck to have you here, even though we've been in each other's pussies many times. So I'm going to introduce Kate, Yoni Witch, and I've got a little something that I stole from your website here to share. So I am here to wake up the Yoni Witch who lives inside us all, reclaiming our sexual energy, lifting the shame from our genitals and our sexuality, and empowering all beings to be in their fullest creative expression on this lifetime. I follow the cycles of the earth, the moon, the cycles of life and death, the way that these cycles are reflected in our wombs and in our lives and in our breath. I am wild and witchy. I dance naked in the woodlands and I bleed on the earth. I swim in the icy ocean and I sleep under the stars. I look for magic in the feathers I find and I listen to the whisperings of the trees and the plants. My path is to help others to find these wild, witchy, forgotten parts of them and bring them home. Ow!
God.
Anything to add to your amazing words from your
It
website?
does it brought us when you started speaking, it just brought up a lot of emotion, like just, like hearing that, like this reclamation that's happening, that this is what I stand for, and this is what we're doing, this is what you're doing, this is what all of the women that are standing for this work are doing. And it just feels really potent, and I could just because it's really listening to somebody else speaking those words. I've written them, I've put them on my website, listening to them spoken back to me just was like, yeah,
Yeah.
these are like powerful times that we're living in, right?
Yeah, and bless us today for having the privilege to be in the UK, in England, where we can talk
Yeah.
about sexuality, where we can be sexual women, where we're not going to be, imprisoned or punished or murdered for doing the work that you and I do, this sexuality work, the body work, the work with women. And yeah, I just feel so blessed because actually how I met you was
Mm.
during the pandemic, I believe, when
Yeah.
you were doing a bit more work online and you held a 6 week yoni massage course where we could join you on Zoom and learn how to massage our own internal anatomy. And that was back in 2021, I believe, early 2021.
Mm.
And that 6 weeks changed my whole life. I literally birthed the wild femme during that course with you. Like, I started doing this business, this work. I realized the trauma that I'd been holding back for 4 years. I experienced my first internal orgasms, and everyone that follows the wild femme, all the de-armoring work I do, it originated from Kate, who's here today. So massive credit to you. You've been like one of my biggest teachers and continue to be, because we've continued working together since then. I've trained in yoni massage even more since you got me obsessed with that practice, and so we've given massage exchanges to each other because we're one of the only people doing this in our land. So we come together and we exchange sometimes and receive from each other. You've also been holding me in your Vita coaching, mentoring recently, which was so unbelievable for me, shifted so much with my father wound. My relationship to my own sexual practices changed forever. I've started doing some like beautiful energy work before I self-pleasure, and that's all thanks to your guidance. And yeah, the Shakti dances you hold as well in Cornwall here in person are like just legendary in the community. And that's one of the ways I came to meet you, is dancing barefoot on the mud, under the moon, under the
Mm.
stars, and remembering these ancient ways of being a woman. And yeah, I just want to praise you. So I'm so happy you're here, because I know that everyone in the community is probably dying to get a taste of us coming together and talking about all of this beautiful, forbidden, juicy, witchy, wet shit. So I'm so excited to
Yeah.
hear.
Oh, yeah, it's so beautiful to hear all of your words. I kind of like want to write them all down and like capture them, you know, it feels really lovely and I'm really allowing myself to receive all of that. And you are always so generous with your words. And I really appreciate like this opportunity that we have to be on these lands together. A little bit sad that you're leaving. Well, not just a little bit sad, but a lot sad. And to do this work, you know. And that what you just said about how that 6 week yoni massage course birthed the wild femme. It's like that is the fucking power that's inside us, you know. That is what is waking up inside of us, like this birthing of this whole movement that you have like birthed, created, and grown. It's comes from your yoni. And when we do this work, we wake up that power that's inside of ourselves. Like what we create is like fucking limitless, right?
So limitless, so
Yeah.
limitless. So we're going to go
And
into
you know, so well, I was just going to say, like, I've been really grateful to have that because there isn't a lot of people doing this work in Cornwall of actually the physical yoni massage. That's been a real blessing to be able to share that time with each other and to serve each other in that way. And yeah, I'd really love it if more people were doing this work and there were more opportunities for women to be able to support one another in that really deep and precious way that we've been able to do.
mm, yeah, thank you. Because I'm sure you experience this with your clients, but when people come for a yoni massage, and it's my most popular podcast episode to this day, is like what I learned from massaging 50 vaginas. It's like my most popular episode. Everyone wants to know. And when women come to receive a yoni massage or that kind of body work, they always say how natural it feels. They always say it's so natural that they, expect it to be weird that I'm, inside of them, but it just feels like the most natural way we hold each other as women. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a remembering that we all get to experience. And I'm so happy that you introduced me to that life-changing
Mm.
practice, which has been
Mm.
so unbelievably supportive to me and continues to be and will be for my whole life. So thank you for
Mm.
spreading it.
Absolute pleasure.
So tell us your story first. I mean, we've introduced you as the Yoni Witch and the the carrier of these codes of blood and our juices and reclaiming our yonis as sacred and reclaiming witch rituals as sacred. But how did you get here? What brought you into this deep service of women's bodies?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've got emotion coming up. In one word, I would say it's my son. And, you know, the longer story is that before I gave birth to him, in the period of my life as an adult before I birthed him, I was like really disconnected from myself. I drank a lot of alcohol, took a lot of drugs. I was kind of like, I traveled a lot. I was wanting to be somewhere else other than where I was. And I had no idea about the power of a woman's body. I didn't really have much idea about the patriarchy, as we don't, you know, we grow up in this container where we know that things aren't equal between men and women, but we don't really know why. You know, we've never really thought about the fact that God's a man. God is just a man, you know. And it's not unpicked. Um, and then yeah, when I gave birth to Alfie, which is 14 years ago now, 14 now, um, there was like I always say I can kind of divide my life, my adult life, into two halves, you know, before he was born and after he was born. And um I birthed him and then I had this kind of awakening. So like the birthing portal for women, it's like a rite of passage. I knew none of this at the time, but it is like this really powerful shamanic rite of passage. And in me, it was an awakening. It was a portal that I stepped through, and then there were a series of things that happened. So the first one was like, you know, like the awe. I was awestruck by what my body had done. It had birthed and created this baby. that was, and like, you know, the most magnificent experience of my life was lying. And I had a very traumatic birth with him. I wanted a home birth, and I ended up in hospital with a C-section because of obstetric violence, essentially. And my enduring memory, like my most precious memory, is him lying on my chest when he'd just been born, looking into his eyes, you know. So there was like the awe of all of that. And then there was my whole breastfeeding journey with him, which was like, wow, like, you know, my body has given birth to this being and then nurtured and nourished him, you know. And before I gave birth, I thought that I would breastfeed for 6 months and then like give up, because that's how long you breastfeed, and carry on drinking again. I thought I'd just got to stop drinking for this period of time and then I could carry on. And then, you know, after I birthed him, it was like, oh, this journey, you know, so much change, so much that I realized. And I ended up breastfeeding him for 4 years. So that was huge. So this was part of this awakening. About 2 years, when my period came back, I think probably about 18 months, 2 years. And around about this point, I discovered, I read this book called Her Blood is Gold by Lara Owen. I don't know if you've read it. No,
No.
it's really, really, really beautiful book about the menstrual cycle. And she is Lara Owen. She's British, and she teaches MAs in the menstrual cycle. So you can go and do an MA in the menstrual cycle with Lara Owen. She's amazing. So I read that book, and I was kind of like, oh, like this whole world opened up to me about the fact that my blood, my menstrual cycle, which I'd always thought of as an inconvenience at best, you know, it was just kind of like in the way. I'd never really had huge problems with it, but it wasn't something that I treasured or really gave much thought to. There was a realization that this was a source of power. And that began my journey with the menstrual cycle. And then I met Mandy Adams, who sadly passed 4 years ago now. But at that time, she just started Red Tent Cornwall, and I connected with her, and it was like, wow, there's somebody else doing this work as well. And I really deepened in. So that was the start of it all, was beginning my practice with my menstrual cycle, tracking my cycle, like trying to rest when I bleed, which is incredibly difficult when you've got a small child. And it was just like managing to eke out little bits of time, you know, and like tracking it over time. And of course, that's the basis of everything for me. It's like this, the power that is available to us when we start to connect with our menstrual cycle is incredible. And it can be really hard for a lot of women, because for a lot of women, the menstrual cycle is really, really uncomfortable, painful, distressing, you know. So sometimes, you know, like saying this just doesn't sit with everybody, because for some people it's really painful. And part of that is to do with the society that we live in and the way that it's been shamed for so long, you know. So anyway, I then had, like, with my partner, our relationship had begun to fall apart since my son was born, because I'd had this really healing experience and he hadn't. And so we were like moved in different directions, and it kind of got worse and worse and worse. And we split up when my son was 4. And I'd got an inkling that I wanted to do something around exploring Tantra. And like before I gave birth, and before I was with my current partner as well, I was kind of like, I slept with a lot of people. I didn't really get a lot of like orgasm out of sex. I was usually drunk, you know, and it was just something that I thought I was enjoying, or I thought I wanted to do. But when I look back on it, like it wasn't really serving me where I was sexually. And then after I had my son, my relationship with my partner just kind of like tanked, and we didn't really have sex for like 4 years. So then when we split up, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And it was a really difficult year for me. It's one of the hardest years of my life. But I decided that I wanted to go and explore Tantra. So I went and found this Tantra training course, and I didn't really know what it was before I went to do it. I just wanted to go and study Tantra. So I went to London, which was huge. It was the first time I'd been away from my son, and joined this course. And it turned out to be a bodywork course, which I had no idea about. So I did this bodywork course, and that was like section 1 of the course, and I was like, I'm never going to be a body worker, but this is interesting. So I went back and I did the next section, and I did this. They were like, I kept going back there and doing the training, doing more training all the time, saying I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to be a body worker, but I just want to do the training. And then when it got to the end of the training, because when you train, the way that I was trained was men working with women, because a lot of tantra is about polarity. And then and that was all the training that I'd done. And then I said, can I try working with a woman? And so there was somebody on the training who was willing to pair up with me. And I worked with her, and I was like, fuck, this is what I want to do. So when I've been working with men, it was like interesting, but it wasn't like, I couldn't see myself doing that, as a practitioner. But when I like put my hand inside a woman and work with her, I was like, this is what I was born to do, was like work with pussies. And the second person, who's still a good friend of mine, the second person that I worked with, when I put my hand inside her and like did some work with her, and I came out and she was like, you're like some kind of womb shaman or something. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something in this. And so that was what I focused on from then on in my body work, and my tantric body work was working with women. And I then did some training with Tammy Kent, and she's like the writer of The Wild Feminine. And she is a womb shaman. She is like they call her the vagina whisperer. She's like sat with thousands and thousands of women's bodies, and that's where all of her knowledge and wisdom comes from. So I did my training with her. And then Sacred Yoni was born. And that was what I went out into the world and did initially, was offering women yoni massage and like emotional release body work, and I always, through that time, I have always worked with men as well, but in a different capacity to the way that I work with women. So that's it in a nutshell.
Ooh, oh my God. Yes. Yes. I mean, if anyone watches a clip of this podcast, you'll see that Kate is a total womb shaman. Like, you are embodying it in every cell of your being, but so much more than that. And it's so funny to hear that you accidentally came into the bodywork, because so did I. It was a total accident. Like, I did the course with you. That was very much kind of on purpose, because I'd just done a journey with my womb, reclaiming my menstrual cycle. And I really want to touch on what you said about that as well, the pain in the womb, because I can tell people from experience that I was like basically diagnosed with endometriosis. I didn't go through the operation that you need to be properly diagnosed, because I didn't actually want anyone to invade my womb space like that. But I had multiple ultrasounds. They kept finding internal bleeding, internal bruising on my ovaries. They kept finding cysts that were the type of cysts that come with endometriosis. And my mum and my sister were both diagnosed by operation. So I kind of knew that I had a good chance of inheriting that. But the pain that I experienced has almost completely stopped now. I mean, it's still very painful, but only maybe every 5 to 6 months, rather than every month I was having debilitating pain. And I believe that this is due to the reclamation of my blood, of my pussy, of my womb, and loving her so much, and coming into loving relationship with her, and dissolving and unlayering all the messages we get about our bodies as women. I believe that is what has stopped my pain. So you're so right when you touched on that, like that a lot of that actually comes from society. It really does. Like, a lot of the conditions.
And I think, just to be really clear about it as well, it's like there's different layers. So obviously stuff is happening in our individual body. We part of it is genetic predisposition to it. Part of it is like, can be to do with diet, and like there are women that are born with endometrial cells, but they never experience any pain. It's like there's lots of different layers to it all. And for me, like in the way that I look at it, the lens I look at it, all of this is like what is expressing through our individual physical body. So it's very real and it's happening on a physical level, and it's expressing for us individually because of the bigger cultural container that we live in. And like what I love about your story, what it really shows is that we're not fucking powerless. You know, we have the we can take back the power. We have the power. And so many women that I speak to who have like really debilitating pain and endometriosis, it feels like literally it's a curse. They're like, why me? What have I done to deserve this? Like, why is this happening to me? I must have done something really bad at some point in my life to experience this. You know, this is quite a common kind of thread.
Mm.
And yeah, this is like, it's not anything that you've done, you know, and it's something that you can take your power back with and you can transform, and not on your own. Like, you know, we do this together.
Yes. Fuck yes. That's so beautiful. Thank you for bringing that thread. And yeah, of course, there's like compassion to anyone listening that's like, fuck you guys, I'm in pain right now as I'm listening. Like, I
Absolutely.
just saw a one-to-one client yesterday who suffers from chronic pain. Like, I know so many women in this world are in physical pain, but yeah, it's when you hit that point as a woman where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to what the doctors are saying. I'm not going to listen to the fact that they tell me that there's no cure. I was just told again and again, come back when you can't have children. I was
Mm.
told again and again by the medical system, just come back when you can't have children. And I'm like, why would you let it get to that point?
Yeah.
So I took my power back by, like you said, not doing it alone, calling in sisterhood and community that do this work that I know have the tools to help me. And again, that's coming from a privileged place of having the abundance and the money to invest in yoni steaming herbs and to get the wisdom. But you know, reach out to me, reach out to Kate, like reach out to someone. We can help you in some capacity. And
Mm.
there's all sorts of information out there, like this podcast, that's going to hopefully shift women's relationships to their anatomy. And on that note, I'd love to talk about blood rights, which is such a huge part of your work. I'm looking at
Mm.
you now, anointed in your own blood, and it's stunningly beautiful. So yeah,
Mm.
you recently shared on your Instagram as well a story about where you and a beloved sister slash co-facilitator slash another medicine woman in our community were free bleeding whilst you were holding a temple space, and you anointed the third eye of the woman in the space with this menstrual blood, and that's what you've done today. So
Mm.
can you tell us a little bit about blood rights and why we shouldn't just keep flushing our blood down the toilet and throwing it in the bin on our sanitary
Mm.
products? Like why?
Yeah.
And also I fucking hate that word, sanitary products.
Yeah.
It's not unsanitary. So that's what I want to touch on now, because like when we put blood on my face, when I've done it in the past, women have been a bit disgusted. So can you explain to us
Mm.
why this isn't disgusting, why it shouldn't just go in the bin? Yeah, I'd love to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah. I mean, there's like, you know, this prophecy. I think it's an ancient Hopi prophecy that says, you know, when all of the women pour their blood back on the earth, then the men will come home from war. And there's so much. When I first heard that, I was really inspired by it, and there's so much in it. And I think, like for me, there's a couple of things. So with the anointing with the blood, part of this is like we have so much shame that is instilled in us from the cultural container that we grow up in about our blood. There's a disconnect from it. Like even if there's not explicit shame, it's there in the silence. It's there in the way that we are taught to hide our blood. Like we may not even know why when we start bleed. Well, we may not know why. We will not know why we are ashamed when we start bleeding, but we do know that it's not something that we talk about, and it's not something that we show. We try and hide it, and that is getting better and changing. But certainly when I was growing up, and when a lot of us were growing up, that was very much the case. And there's certain, you know, this it is beginning to change and shift. But because of that, we have this, like, you know, this disconnect from it, and there's a bit of disgust around it. We have disgust around our genitals generally, you know. And when we anoint ourselves with our blood, we are reclaiming it. So we are saying and feeling that this is sacred. This is something, it's not just about not being ashamed of our blood, it's about being proud of it. Like, I am proud that I am a bleeding woman, and I'm proud that I'm bleeding. Because this is part of my spiritual practice. This is part of, like, you know, who I am as a woman. Like, to be a woman is to bleed. To be a person with a womb or a vulva is to bleed. Like, for most people who have a womb, they are going to bleed. And there, I mean, there's even, I Googled the other day and I found lots of websites that kind of instruct women how they can get rid of their period, and that it's fine to get rid of your period, you know, like that is out there. But yeah, this like kind of anointing is a reclaiming of the sacredness of blood. And this connects us to our power, because it is part of our lives. If we have a womb that we bleed, then if we're ashamed of it, we're disconnected from our power. So when we reclaim it with and we say this is sacred and we're proud of it, it reconnects us to our power source, which is in our womb. So this part, that's part of it, is like this reclamation, which helps to empower women. And then pouring the blood on the earth is so important to me and to other people, because it is a remembrance that we are of the earth. Like, our, you know, our bodies were drawn up out of the earth. Our bodies are made of what the earth is made of. And when we give our blood back to the earth, we're kind of cementing our connection with the earth. And there's so much power in that. Like, the earth is like this huge fucking massive womb, and wombs are a microcosm of her. And so when we connect with her that deeply, we tap into her power as well. Her power is our power. So both of these things ultimately lead to empowerment, like our own empowerment. They lead to us being able to claim our power. And that is why the disconnect is there, because it's an inherent part of what it is to be a powerful woman, is to be like, and when I say a powerful woman, I don't mean a powerful woman in the sense of somebody in the patriarchy who is powerful, but a woman who is in her power, in her body, in her full creative range, who is here doing what she came here to do. So when we connect with the earth, we're connecting in, we're like tapping into her fucking infinite power. Like, she's got, like, you know, this core of like molten rock energy that we're tapping into, and that's coming into our bodies. And when we're pouring our blood on the earth, we're kind of reinforcing that connection, and we're giving back, and we're remembering that she's our mother. Like, because this is part of the disconnect, you know, and this is for everyone, for people with penises as well as people with vaginas. It's like, she is our mother. And when we recognize and know that she's our mother, we're going to like treat her very differently to how we treat her now, when we've forgotten that. And there's a huge disconnect there, and there's a lot of destruction, and yeah, forgetting to love our own mother, you know, which is where we are, where humanity seems to be now. So yeah, I guess that's the essence of it all. And there's so much more to say, you know, but that's why I'm really passionate about it.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that. Being so proud that you're bleeding, that you wear it on your face for everyone to see, rather than those like
Mm.
traumatic memories as a teenager where you might have bled through your underwear and everyone could see it on your clothes, and
Yeah,
we felt so embarrassed and so
yeah.
ashamed and so like we needed to hide, and that stays with people for lifetimes, you know, that memory of like
Absolutely.
being seen on their bleed when they were young. And
Yeah. And
yeah.
this was what happened in the ceremony that we did recently, in the Menarche ceremony, was that before the ceremony it had come through for Tracy strongly, this memory of her being on a first date with a boy and wearing a white dress and bleeding onto the white dress, and the shame that she felt, you know, that was really present for her. And she was like, I'm fucking going into the ceremony. I'm wearing a white dress and I'm free bleeding, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's what she did. She came in with that white dress on, you know, bled all over the floor, and like this blood was like this sacred blood that we anointed ourselves with, and it just felt like so powerful and such a reclamation. And she was like, that's it for me now. When I bleed, I'm free bleeding. Like this, there's so much liberation in free bleeding, which is so different to when I first started bleeding. My mum, because of her experiences when she was growing up, and she had to wear these huge, embarrassing sanitary towels that everyone could see, which was embarrassing because we're meant to be hiding it. So, you know, she was like, I'm gonna, you know, we need to start wearing tampons as soon as possible, because she wanted to protect me from the experience that she had, which was totally valid. Like, in a world that is ashamed of blood, it makes total sense to learn to use tampons as soon as you can so that we can hide it effectively. But actually, with tampons, we're blocking up the free flow of blood. And like, to have the experience of free bleeding, which can be difficult because we live in houses with carpets and stuff like that, you know. But I really recommend for anybody to just try, like, having a little bit of time when you're bleeding, just wear a skirt and just let the blood flow and just see what that feels like, you know, just to let it flow, especially when you're outside, and, you know, let the blood fall on the earth. And
Mm.
and within that, there's another thing that Jules Wingfield, actually, who's one of my teachers, really recommends, which is for people who have anxiety, bleed directly onto the earth. So get your pussy on the earth, dig a hole if you want to, like a sacred hole, like make it into a sacred altar, and spend some time with your pussy on the earth, bleeding into it to really get that earth connection strong. And that's really good for women who feel anxious. The reason being that, like, the root chakra and our connection to the earth is all around safety, and anxiety is around fear. So when we really cementing that connection, which we can do if we're bleeding directly on the earth, then we're helping with the anxiety. But all of these practices will help with anxiety for that reason, because like, it's going to help our root connection to the earth and help with our fear, because it will create safety. The more connected we are to the earth, the more safety we're going to feel, which is
Oh,
another great reason to practice blood rights.
fuck yes. We should have done a whole episode on blood rights, really. I don't know if I've
Yeah.
spoken much to it, but yeah, I can testify to that. I love getting on my knees and straddling the earth when I'm bleeding. And for
Mm.
anyone listening that doesn't know what free bleeding is, that's when you take away all of the products, all of the, you know, anything you use to normally bleed on or in, you take that away, you take away your underwear, and you just let the blood drip directly from your
Drip.
pussy out. Just let it drip, let it flow, and see it running down your legs and experience that as art. And yeah,
Mm.
it can't not change you. It can't not change you. It's just, yeah, it's just divine.
Mm.
So I feel like this journey truly is a spiral. We've brought so many pieces and threads in so far about the feminine, and it's so real to me that my journey kind of started with the womb, and then it led me to pleasure, and then it led me to reclaiming the witch within, and then that led me to reclaiming my voice and my rage, and that led me to
Mm.
doing my work and my mission work and speaking. And it's like, how does our vagina and our connection to our womb and our anatomy lead women and us to remember all of these mystic codes that have been so forgotten? Like, how is it all so deeply connected? Why is it that when we
Mm.
drop into our anatomy, we start to be like, oh my God, I'm a witch. Oh my God, I need to like put my feet on the earth. And we all have these intuitive callings and rememberings, and it's like this spiral journey, and everything is so connected with this. So how does it all come together, the body work,
Mm.
the yoni massage, with the reclaiming our blood, with the reclaiming the witch and dancing under the moon? Like, how does it all really come together?
Well, these are all the things that have been disallowed, right? Like, these are all the things that have been that we have not been allowed to express as women, and they're part of our core essence. You know, part of our core essence is connecting to the earth. Part of our core essence is bleeding. Part of our core essence is fucking hell, our sexual energy. you know, like this is our creative power, this is what creates human beings. It's a creative life force, and we've been disconnected from that. And it's all purposeful, like it's all been done purposely, whether it's on a conscious or an unconscious level, and it's a whole other discussion and rabbit hole to go down. But within a patriarchy, then the power is with men. That doesn't mean that they don't suffer in a patriarchy. Like for me, men are suffering just as much as women are in the patriarchy, but they're just suffering differently. But they are the holders of the power within that. um and so it makes sense within a power structure like that, that women need to be disempowered and disconnected from the things that make them powerful. So once we start waking up to one part of that, you know, like for me it was like birthing, which then led to my menstrual cycle, which then led to my sexuality, you know, like whatever sequence it goes in. Once we start waking up to it, we find these, you know, part of it, the wild witch within us is really fucking disallowed. We're allowed to be the maiden, the mother, the crone, but the witch, you know, she was burnt. Like this like reclamation of this wild part comes in because it's part of us. We can't, like, it's there, it's sleeping inside us, you know, and ready to wake up once the conditions are all there for that to happen. So I guess that's why it's all intertwined, because these are all the parts that wake up, and you know, when we start doing this work, are the parts that have been shut down because they connect us to our power.
Mm. Mm. Oh my God, thank you so much for that.
Mm.
Feeling like a rumbling in my womb. And
Mm.
it is that, like, once you start unlayering, I mean, my kind of motto at the moment, I guess, and for my work is remembering and reclaiming the woman you've been told not to be. Like, I literally came back from complete sexual numbness, sexual shutdown, shame, trauma, deep, 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 violent trauma that my body remembered. The way that I got through that was not by going to therapy. It was by becoming the woman that I was told never to become. Becoming the
Yeah.
woman that shows her blood to the world, becoming the woman that expresses her no and her boundaries and isn't a good girl that just is agreeable and nods along. It was fucking reclaiming these parts. And also now, with a lot more balance and love and consent and compassion, there's like nuance. I don't want any woman to just be like, I'm gonna start screaming and like screaming at everyone in my life. Like, reclaiming the witch isn't necessarily being mean and angry to everyone,
Mm.
because they burned so many of us, although there is a part of that rage that needs to be heard and held. But like, being the witch is an internal frequency as well. It's like a shift in how we feel in our bodies, and reclaiming the parts of our bodies that we've been told not to feel, not to connect
Yeah.
to, not to touch, like our blood and our pussy and our womb. And like, yeah, fuck. It's just, it's a portal. Once you touch, and this is why I think de-armoring was such a pinnacle moment to me.
Yeah.
Once you physically touch with your own fingers the entrance to your womb, and honoring any woman listening who doesn't have a physical womb, who hasn't got that anatomy within them right now, but just getting into contact with that portal, that space, that
Mm.
internal vaginal canal, that entrance into your deepest roots of your body. Like, you can't not remember shit.
Yeah.
You can't not.
Totally. Yeah. 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 Because it's all held there, right? You know, like all of the stuff that we haven't been able to feel is all held there, and the touching really wakes it all up.
Really does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so powerful, you know, it's so powerful, and there's always like deeper layers to go, because we're not just remembering what happened in our lifetime as well. Like what's held in our bodies is what's held, you know, going down the ancestral line, which is why it's all cultural as well, which is why endometriosis is cultural, you know, because it's all held in our individual bodies. So we will be touching um women being raped and beaten and murdered all over time through all of space when we touch in our own bodies as well. So that, there's like and we'll be touching all of the pleasure and the bliss, like there's the potential for both ends of this, if you like,
Yeah.
when we touch ourselves.
Yeah, and also a deep remembering I found in my work, and the thing that I really deeply bring into every offering I bring now is like, we're not just doing this for the woman that died trying. We're not just doing this for ourselves and to heal the family line and to be that chain breaker that sends new codes forward, but we're also doing it for all the women that still to this day in 2025 all around the world are being completely shut down from being a woman. They can't speak in public. In so many cultures and countries, women can't choose who they marry or whether they don't marry. There's so many women that still don't have at all any idea that their body belongs to them. And I think the more that we wake up from this privileged position of being in Europe, being in the Western world, the more that we wake up and normalize this by wearing our blood on our head and going out, the more we make it fucking normal, the less taboo I feel it will become, and the less shamed and the less banished and exiled and denied it will become for those women globally. But it has to start with us who have the choice and the safety to actually do this
Yeah.
work.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's almost like there's, if we have the privilege to be able to do it, and if we have the information and the community support, it behooves us to do this work for everybody, for all women that are alive, for all those that went before, for all those who are yet to come, and not just for the women, for the men as well, for our sons as well. It's so important for them. It's so important for our partners. It's so important for like people of all genders that we do this work, because it affects everybody, because we are all born from a womb, we all grow in a womb, we all come
Mm.
from a womb. So
Yeah, thanks for bringing in the men.
mm,
On that note, you being a mother of the future generation of men, um,
mm,
how can mothers listening really start to re-educate their children and re-educate their lineage, or women listening who know they want to become mothers? How can we really re-educate the next generation on remembering these parts of ourselves as sacred? And how can a
mm,
mother now, like, how can I even share with my niece, because she's 9 and they've started educating her already about her period at school, and she's
mm,
scared, she feels scared,
mm,
and I'm like, I need to do something here, because I have the wisdom and I can share things with her. But how and is the best way to do that, to remember this
mm.
deep connection to our bodies? How can we start to re-educate the children to come?
I'm so passionate about this. I'm so passionate about it. And the first thing to say about it is that it's not easy, because of the cultural container that we live in. And like, we can have the best intentions for our child, but then, especially for girls, like when they we can give them the education we want to give them within our own family, but then when they see what is happening out in the world, there's like an incoherence there. It's like, my mum says that my blood is sacred, but I'm not seeing that or feeling that out there. They know, you know on a body level. So it's not easy, is the first thing. The second thing is, we need to do the work ourselves. That is the most important thing. Anyone who wants to be a mother, or anybody who is a mother already, we cannot educate our children if we haven't done the work ourselves. So we need to be practicing this. We need to be practicing the sanctity, the sacredness of our blood. We need to be like honoring our body. We need to be like connecting with our sexual energy. We need to be working on healing our inner maiden, so that we can reclaim our sexuality. We need to be working with the shame that we feel inside our bodies about speaking about sexuality and sex and experiencing it. We have to do that. We can't do it from a place of like telling. We have to do it from a place of living. So for you and your niece, like, it's just, because okay, Like, you know, she's in school and she's being told certain things, and she will see what you're doing as she grows up, you know, and that is there because you're living it and you're doing it. And then also for me, what's come through a lot is like this, and this is what we're doing, you know, at the start of April. What's come through for me is that because there's a lot of people doing work with young girls of like preparing them for menstruation. I say a lot, there's not a lot, there are some. But like what's come through for me is really wanting to have these community celebrations. So I do a lot of women's work and women's ceremonies. And in April, we are doing a community celebration for adult women to celebrate their blood witnessed by their partners and by their children. And my vision is for this to build year on year, to carry on. So we do this every year. Every year we come together in the springtime and celebrate women's bleeds. And I live on the land where I live. There's a beautiful little 3-year-old girl who I love so much. And, you know, I'm like looking at her and thinking, gosh, if she grows and she sees every year the women being celebrated for her blood, for their blood, when she'll be looking forward to it being her time, you know? So I'm really like, you know, really passionate about creating these community containers for us to talk about this, not just in the family, but in the community as well. And then the other thing is to talk to your children right from when they're tiny, you know. So this is spoken about. So you don't have like a conversation when they're 9 or 11 or 13. Like we talk about this stuff in an age appropriate way from when they're born, from when they're tiny, you know, like what happens, usually what happens, the nappy goes on like on a newborn and it stays on through most of their toddlerhood. Take the fucking nappy off. Let them play with their genitals, you know, like let them have that time of like being naked, you know, like as much as you can. Yeah, we've got carpets and stuff, but you can wash them, like, you know, like okay, sometimes they're going to need to wear a nappy, but this is where it all starts. Like the disconnection starts with the genitals being covered at birth. So most people don't even think of this, but it's really important, you know, like so have them, like, you know, let them play, because they play with their genitals, they explore themselves, and like keep that going. And a lot of people have this you know, really well-meaning kind of idea that when children, because very young children, not all of them, but some, and I don't know what the percentage is, it's different for everyone, but like a lot of young children learn how to self-pleasure, and they'll rub themselves up against something, and like in a less educated family, that will be shut down. I know so many women who had that shut down and had to do it in secret from an early age. But even in well-meaning families, it will be like, okay, you can do that, but it needs to be in private. So right away, they're getting this message like that, okay, there's something wrong with pleasure. And actually, like, okay, just so long as it's safe, just so long as it's like there's not any kind of like nefarious people around, you know, who are going to misinterpret that, let them feel their pleasure, you know, let them know that like feeling pleasure in their genitals is completely okay. And it's a real struggle for a lot of people, because it's like, because we live in the cultural container that we live in, it's like, what is okay? And children's sexuality is scary for an adult, you know, because of like all of the problems that we have with paedophilia. Um and if we were more open about it and talked more about it, then there wouldn't be as much of a problem, and there would be less kind of like opportunity for abuse. So I think a lot needs to shift in it. And I think this is where it starts, is like talking about it, allowing pleasure, and like, you know, like really allowing children to have sensual pleasure as well, like, you know, to be like touched, like for touch and massage to be part of a child's life as well, you know, all these things are really important. And just keeping the conversations open, like keeping them going, showing your blood bleeding in front of your children, you know, and they just follow you around anyway, they come everywhere with you. It would be quite hard to hide it from them, to be honest, but keeping on doing it. um yeah. And I'll just tell you a little really beautiful story about so my son is really into 3D animation and like sculpting on like a 3D animation program, and he's got a 3D printer. So I got him to model, I wanted him to print out some vulvas for me, some 3D vulvas. So I sat with him and we modeled together this beautiful vulva, which we did through like looking at pictures and me going, okay, that needs to come out a bit, that needs to go in. And he sculpted it all and then printed these vulvas out. And then a couple of weeks later, I walked into his room and he was there with his friend who was 15, and he was explaining to her that she had a urethra, so she had another hole that she could go for a wee through because she didn't know, and how could she know? And he was like, he was kind of explaining this, and I came in and kind of confirmed it for him. And he was like, I know because I've modeled it, and it's like these conversations, like it's okay for a 13-year-old to know what a vulva it's okay for a 2-year-old to know what a vulva looks like. And like there's so far to go with all of it. We're such a long way away from it, but I do feel like sex positivity is coming in more and more to more and more families and changing little by little.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so like my heart feels excited. My like something that I've kind of dreaded or avoided in my life is the thought of becoming a mother. I've been like, I
Mm,
completely cut it off. And I know
mm,
that is so down to my father wounding
yeah.
and my experience of like a long line of single moms and then seeing my sister go through it as well, getting pregnant and the man just running away and disappearing. And like I'm yeah, I don't want to lose my relationship. So I kind of shut down the thought of having children. But now I'm in a really beautiful container. And I'm with an Italian man, and family is extremely sacred and extremely special and extremely valued. And I just want to confirm to women out there who are thinking, I don't have any men in my life that are like that they are all out there. Like
Mm,
I know women that have deeply craved their partner to not shame their blood, to feel comfortable to make love to them when they're on their bleed, to, not shame that part of them. And the next generation I'm so excited for because they're being raised by witches like us, but even
mm,
like my partner who wasn't necessarily, although he was raised by an amazing set of parents, he had like a really amazing dad who's a therapist, so really emotionally aware, and his mum was a doctor, so there was no like body shame really at
mm,
all. So he's super open, but not necessarily was there any spirituality in his upbringing. And
yeah.
he's so interested in my blood. He loves it. He will be like so excited when I'm on my bleed to like be involved. He wants to come in when I'm changing my menstrual cup and like saving the blood, and he wants to watch, and he's like, can I watch what
Mm.
you're doing? And it's just like so much curiosity.
Oh,
So when the men are given the opportunity to be involved, they kind of want to be. And like your son, there wasn't any discuss there, but also for the woman craving their partner, if they're with a man or whoever they're with, but particularly I think there's a belief that men find this gross. Just open up to them and you'll be surprised. Like you'll
mm,
be surprised how curious they are and how starved of this education they have been. And when
yeah.
we can give that to the men in our lives, I have found with my last two partners particularly, they have been so like on a level obsessed with my blood, like
Yeah.
knowing the life force and the energy of that and wanting to be immersed in it and blessed with it and wanting to know it. And like I'll do all my blood paintings and put them in frames around the house, and there's no like there's no
Yeah.
shame around that. And
Mm.
it's deeply healing to share this with men, I have found.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to be witnessed in it by your partner if your partner is a man, and yeah, by like by our children, by our sons, by our daughters. It's like really deeply healing.
Thank you for being the carrier of that. And I wanted to
Mm.
ask you some final questions, one of which is, what are three ways that the woman in the audience can start to awaken this yoni witch within, with these ancient parts of us coming online? Like, what are three ways a woman can kind of wake up that wild knowing within them?
I think, you know, the fundamental thing is connecting with your pussy, like every day, just put your hand over her, send her some love, tell her you love her. And that can be really difficult for some women. You know, it's not available to everybody straight away, but just, you know, it can just be begin by just breathing into her. Um, yeah, I think that that connection is the number one thing, like bringing the connection, because there is a disconnect there. Like a lot of people feel like they're living from here, you know, and it's been cut off down there. Um, I would say if you have a menstrual cycle, then just start to pay attention to it. You know, this is the compass of your life. Like this will help so much. And like you don't have to do everything all at once, you know, just like begin by noticing it, maybe tracking it, seeing how you feel at different times in it, maybe just taking, even if you can just rest for an hour on the day that you start your bleed, you know, starting to have a little bit of like softness and slowness when you bleed. And then the other one, I would say like connect with connect with other women, talk to other women about this. You know, there's so much like um shame like silence, and so often we don't talk about things and connect with other people. And actually we're all, the womb matrix is so powerful, we're all connected through our wombs. And like when we start to connect with other women, we talk about our own experiences, like talk about our pussies, talk about our wounds with other women, then the shame can lift. And the shame is like part of this heaviness that's like holding us down. The silence is what holds us down. So yeah, connecting with and talking to other women who are interested. Like most women are fucking, you know, as soon as they get a glimmer of this, like something stirs in them. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it pushes them away when there's a lot of trauma there. Like it can push them away. I, yeah, it's different for different people, but a lot of the time it's like there's like a, you know, a light goes on. And so the more of us that are doing this, it's like it's almost like this is like just gaining momentum. At some point it's gonna flip, you know, and it's just gonna be like a fucking massive snowball that can't stop rolling because it just draws women in, all of this. So yeah,
Mm.
connecting and talking to other women about all of this for sure, and asking their experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the most healing part of the journey, really. It's like just the tribe that you're able
Mm.
to create with the vulnerability of owning the parts of us that haven't felt loved or accepted. Like, yeah, the friendships I've got now
Mm.
have all come from me doing this work and finding those women that are comfortable to talk about this and feeling
Mm.
that sense of the deepest bonds I've ever felt to women in my life have come from this work. So I
Mm.
know that women sometimes feel scared to start this work because they're like, oh, I'm going to be cast out. I'm going to be the weird one. I'm going to be the witch that was, you know, burned and exiled in her community. So when we start reclaiming the witch, we think that that's what's going to happen to us. But actually, I can tell you that although there might be periods where you go through a rebirth of your tribe and your friendships, the connections that are built from the depth of truth and vulnerability that you can share from this place, from this journey, from this like remembering, it just brings us so close together as community, as women in partnerships as well. You know, like I never used to share. I never, if I didn't feel my pussy was sacred, how could I expect my man to worship me like
Yeah.
a goddess if I wasn't
Yeah.
worshiping myself like that? So it's changed every relationship in my life and nourished and deepened every single one of them. And I can just say to people that that is like really, really so special.
Mm. Yeah.
So, final question. And this is a new one that I don't usually ask people, but me and you like to go to these. Me and you like to go a bit further than standard conversations. So, what's your biggest edge right now as a woman in this work, in this world, like what's your biggest edge, your biggest challenge? What's the sticky, like triggering
Mm.
point for you right now? If you feel to share it, it's quite vulnerable, but like, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, like something that I'm bringing in and like really leaning into this edge is leaning more and more into BDSM, like bringing like I'm passionate about bringing kink out of the shadows, like bringing our kinky selves out of the shadows. And there's like a lot of kind of acceptability for women to be dominatrix. Like this is we're kind of like all right with that, right? But then for a woman to be submissive, especially in this world that we're in, there's a lot more charge around it because of the patriarchy. And like, what does this mean if a woman is submissive? And I'm feeling there's so much power in both of those states, in both being the dominatrix and being the submissive. Um, and like there's an edge there because there's a big thread that runs through my life that's around all of this. And it's a big portal to pleasure for me. And so I am dropping deeper and deeper into this and I want to legitimize it for other people as well as I'm doing this. So I'm like naturally submissive, like that's my kink. And like this portal is like a really powerful portal. So I'm opening it up. So I'm bringing in, there's a couple of workshops that are just coming up that are BDSM workshops, which is the first one's impact play and the second one is bondage, that I'm working with a couple of DOMs who are coming down, who are like really experienced in this work, who are coming down to teach this. So there's an edge there because I'm bringing it out into the community, and this is what I want to do. I want us to like, you know, Cornwall's a really small community, so it's not like going to an event in London where you're probably not going to know anyone there. You're probably going to know most people there, and then you know, it's like, can we bring ourselves here in full ownership of our kinky sexuality, and like, you know, being in this community, and sometimes like in a spiritual community, there can be like an edge around something like this, you know, like that maybe it's not spiritual. I really think it is. Like, and I really think that these places, like these like BDSM play scenes and things like that are places to play with these archetypes. I think there's a lot of like potential for ritual, for transformation, for alchemy. So that's something that I'm working with and exploring, and it is an edge for me. And I'm really excited to see what happens when I lean into it more and more. So yeah.
I just got a text from a friend yesterday saying, "Do you know anything about these like conscious kink workshops going on at Cheyenne, which is a venue local to us in Cornwall?" And I said, "No, I don't, but if it's Kate, go to it. It'll be exceptional." And they were like, "It's Kate." And I was like, "Book it now." So the word is out.
Amazing. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I'm not teaching the space, I'm supporting the space. So Mistress Purdy and Zandaka are going to be teaching, and I'm like, you know, supporting and learning with everybody. So I'm super excited about it.
so fun. Thank you for bringing that edge.
Yeah.
So obviously you've mentioned a couple of little ways that people can work with you. You've got so many in-person events that I can highly, highly, highly recommend. But how
Mm.
else can we work with you right now? What have you got going on in your world? How can people
Mm.
find you?
Yeah, like so much going on. I've got like I'm offering mentorship or coaching containers, like 4-month containers, where I guide women through a process of becoming a Yoni witch, essentially. And it's like really powerful client-led coaching containers, and you can add in body work to it as well. The body work's really powerful, and it's really like releasing these old patterns that hold us back, integrating, like getting in touch with all of the parts of ourselves, integrating them, bringing back our power, like connecting to our pussy, connecting to our womb, connecting with our blood, like all of these elements that come in. And it's really like ultimately connecting with our pleasure, connecting with our orgasmic potential, connecting with our full creative range. And then ultimately, this is all like empowering us, like the end result of it is that we come out feeling really empowered. So that's there. I've got on Tantric Tools, which is a business that I run with my beautiful friend Lisa. We have got there's a couple of courses on there. There's a Yoni Egg course and there's a pleasure school, both of which are beautiful ways of connecting in with your pussy. And we've got some amazing products on there. Like, we're really passionate about bringing in crystals and glass products that have got the highest integrity in the sourcing of them and in the creation of them and in the way that they can serve women, and that at the same time we are serving the earth. So yeah, there's like, if you go to so for the mentorship, it's yoniwitch.com. I'm assuming you'll just put all this
I'll
in the
put
show
all the
notes,
links in
right?
the show
Yeah.
notes.
And
Yeah.
then there's Tantric Tools, and there's we've got a discount code as well for anybody listening who can go through that. We've got these amazing new I'll just show you polar jade eggs. So these are like jade eggs. Most jade eggs are really dark, like almost black. And this jade is it's not polar jade like you see on Amazon. There's a company called Polar Jade, but Polar Jade don't actually sell polar jade as far as I can work out. This is like mined in Canada, and it's really beautiful, like translucent green. It's much brighter than most of the Chinese nephrite jade, and we can trace this from mine to our stores. Like, we know the mine that it is mined in, which is highly unusual in the sourcing of crystals, like highly unusual. And then it's we know where it's carved, and then it comes to us. So we're really excited about being able to provide people with like these yoni eggs that have got like that level of integrity in sourcing them. So there's that. Yeah, the BDSM workshops that are coming out, which are on my website. And then we've got the Yoni Maiden portal that is opening in April, that I'm running with my beautiful friend and colleague Tracy. And that is for women it's like a really deep dive. It's a deep and powerful container that culminates in a beautiful ceremony in April, that is going to help women to connect with and integrate their inner maiden. So all of the things that come up around first bleed, first sexual experiences, like your experience of growing up as a woman in this world. And it's a chance to integrate, connect with other women, connect with other sisters doing the work, and like transform and again reconnect with our power as we kind of like tap back into the power of the inner maiden, because that's fucking powerful life force energy. The inner maiden is like, she's growing, she's like got this passion and desire to grow, and yet for so many of us it wasn't safe when we were growing up. So we're calling her back in.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for the work you do. It is some of the deepest work I've ever done. And I can just highly, highly recommend Kate. I've worked with her in person and online, and both have been phenomenal, transformational, alchemizing, expanding spaces for me, and such a huge part of my work and my journey. So if you love what I do, you're going to absolutely fucking adore what Kate does. And I'll leave all of the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing so abundantly all of this juice, all of this ancient wisdom, and all of these deep, vulnerable parts. I know people are going to adore this wisdom. So thank you for bringing it all. Thank you for awakening the Yoni Witch in us all.
Yeah, thank you so much for creating this space. I just absolutely fucking love that we got so much time to talk to each other about all these things that we are really passionate about. And you're one of my favorite people to talk to about all of this. So it's a real like blessing to be able to have this space to come and have this conversation and like let it all flow and connect in this way. So I'm really grateful to you for making this happen, for providing this space and all the work that you do for women, and all of the ways that you empower them and like help them to come into their juicy, dripping sexual selves. So thank you, Charlotte, so much.
Thank you, and thank you so much everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.